So we did a long-range facility study with an architectural firm and determined the needs for every building in the school district. And frankly, that totaled a lot more than $63 million. In fact, it was around $90 million. But one thing was very important to us in thinking about having a new bond issue, and that was that we didn't want it to raise any new taxes for our patrons in Parkrose. So we went through a process with community members, with staff, with the school board, and did some events where we put the facility projects around the room and asked people to weigh in on what were the most important projects to them. And we winnowed that $90 million down to about $63 million, which are the projects we have today in the May 17, 2011 bond.
That's a big gap that we're suffering right now. We got all those new touches and they work great, but one of the issues is the wireless piece. Kids want to do, the new touches have the video capability. They want to do the video FaceTime. Well, you can't do that without wireless. Yeah. We're not able to be progressive, which as a school district that wants their kids to achieve, I don't think it's just about the reading and math and writing scores. I think it's about these progressive types of things that are, in my eyes, just as important. So.
Well, in terms of technology upgrades, what would be really helpful is to have the whole building wireless so that teachers and students can move about with laptops and iTouches and iPads, which we're using all the time now, and be able to log on and do their work.
Especially in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, I have a lot of technology savvy teachers who get it. So they're able to go out and get things on the internet and project it for the students. But to get technology into kids' hands is what Wi-Fi would do for us.
We really want to go Wi-Fi. We're getting more and more computers in our buildings. We're getting them into the hands of kids. And because of the walls, our library can be Wi-Fi, but as soon as you walk across the hall, the other classrooms can't. So it's really restrictive and it's really expensive to get some of this technology in our building and where we want it.
Right now, in this building, because of the infrastructure, technology is something that's laid on top of what we regularly do. It just is an artificial situation when we do technology instead of doing English, doing social studies, doing math, doing science, using all the tools that ought to be available to kids in 2011.
So the custodians in the other elementaries have to tear down tables in order for folks to have PE. And this year our teachers are teaching PE, so it's really important that we have as many time slots as possible to get the kids in for physical education.
Only having one space to teach PE, art, after-school activities, all the eating activities that they do, it's just not enough space. That's the other thing, is that when it's like last week when we had that really bad ice and everything, we had to have indoor recess as well. So then you've got to figure out how to squeeze that in. And again, if you had 2 spaces so that you could have small groups or for meetings, we don't have any place to hold meetings.
So having small group spaces to work with kids who have already had the curriculum taught to them but are struggling with it or don't really know how to interact with that curriculum, for them to have a small group and a teacher who works with them or an educational assistant allows for us to have more time to meet kids' needs.
So we can't use this space between 11 and probably about 1:30, almost 1:15 to 1:30, because you have to have, number one, a custodian to come in and set up for lunch, and then a custodian to come in and clean the floor, put the tables back down after lunch. So the space we're not able to use it for kids.
And I'm bringing you here because heating is quite old and the distribution of heat's really inconsistent. So one classroom can be 80 degrees and the other classroom can be 55 degrees, literally that much of a difference. So the boiler room is, this is all, it's natural gas now, but you can see these boilers are quite old.
So these would all be asbestos tile. This is actually replaced tile. This is vinyl tile here. This would be the asbestos tile, but we've already replaced this once and it's settling more and cracking in the replaced sections. This you'd have to come in and overlay this floor, take this floor off and overlay it with a stable subfloor, and then put your vinyl back in. And when you wax it and buff it, you're in pretty good shape. So the only thing with Russell is you have a lot of window. I mean, this whole front section of the building is all glass. So an upgrade here would certainly be nice to have more energy efficient windows.
Kids can't take their coats off all day when it gets cold. And we have teachers teaching in their jackets, and you know, that's not ideal.
I think one of our biggest concerns here at Sacramento, of course, is where the location of the office is, and it's always about safety for us. So that if you see here that there's no way for anyone to know that this is actually where the entrance of our office is. As people come in, they often, if they have a child that's out in one of these buildings, out this way or on the side here, they often don't check into the building. So it's really about safety and security. We just can't see anybody who's coming down this way.
First thing every morning, we have about 800 kids walking through these 4 double doors. These hallways were designed for about probably 500 students, and we're at over 800 students. So we can't do anything about that. We teach hallway expectations, the students are on their best behaviors, teachers are out in the hall, but the fact is they're completely overcrowded.
The biggest problem that we have in here is the fact that these are to the point where they're failing and we can't replace those without, it's like probably $200 per stand to replace them, to get the angles right. So basically the back 2 rows are gone and have replaced ones up front, but now we're getting to the point where, you know, how far do you bring this forward to still get a class in here? So every class, basically every classroom in the 100 and 200 wing have a bank of windows like that on their outside wall. And they're all single pane windows, so there's real no insulation value in this. Some of the windows in some of the rooms have been replaced years ago with plexiglass, which probably was okay at that time, wouldn't come up to code today just for fire reasons. So down here we have a steam leak in one of the steam pipes. Like I said, the fittings on that piece where it's coming up out of there will be an asbestos fitting, so we'll have to have that abated before we can address the problem. So yeah, this is kind of the issue that we have. The pipes are corroding and rusting underneath the insulation when you get a leak like that, and then it just eats it away at the pipe until you basically have nothing left. But these are plumbing issues that we have not just here in the middle school, but in all the schools that were built in the 60s, early 60s. This is all caused by the drain. There's a drain kind of like right in the middle of this, backing up to the point where we probably had 700 or 800 gallons of water sitting on top of the roof. And then it backed up over the flashing and got into this roof. These aisles, of course, these tiles in the hull are all vinyl asbestos tile.
We cannot have a school-wide assembly. It is impossible. It's illegal for us to do. We cannot fit our entire student body in here without exceeding the capacity limit.
Most of the panels in the school are of this vintage. And these, if one of these breakers goes out, the only way to replace it is to go to a place that has recycled, refurbished, or recertified breakers. For most people, they drive by and look at this building, or they walk through the building and they see a well-kept building, one that looks nice and a pretty good, decent facility for our school. But what they don't see is the deeper stuff. So there's a lot of issues here. While we keep them in check and keep correcting the issues, they're deeper than what most people see.
If we were able to make the building to fit our needs instead of our needs fitting the building, I don't know, it's not even imaginable. It's so exciting what our kids would do, what our teachers would do. I don't know. It's it'd be exceptional, I think.